over Wisconsin. So I guess what changed?
I think one of the big things was that we got JL back in full mode, and I think that when you look at our team, she's just such an important aspect of it, that to have her back, not only her play but her presence on the court was really huge in what she brought to our team. I think that just coming off a hard week, it was kind of like, at this point, it's like do or die in the Big Ten. We have to get wins, and you kind of that sense of urgency that it put into our team to be like, okay, we know we can beat Northwestern. We have to take care of that, and then we really have to buckle down and prepare for Wisconsin on Sunday and get a win that will be really big for our program, but also help us later on when we need to get into the tournament. And I think that maybe one of the things that changed was just a lot of preparation. I think our coaches put a lot of emphasis on getting us into the film room this week, implementing new drills that was going to help us win these games. And then that focus just, led us to be, I think, more prepared for these two teams than we've been for a lot of teams the rest of the season. I think that the Wednesday-Sunday stretch really helped to give you those couple extra days instead of Wednesday-Saturday. That one day made a difference. We had a really good practice on Saturday morning. And so I think preparation, but also our mindset is what kind of changed and led us to those victories.
How do you guys break the size that Wisconsin has up front with Retke and several others? How did you guys counter that well on Sunday?
When you have some people that are that size, I know that Retke was up there, and then the other girl, she played just a little bit, but I think that comes down to blocking and our blocking scheme that we used. Our goal was to have two people in front of Retke at all times, and that kind of meant that whoever the outside hitter was, we had to leave her one-on-one and kind of make our defense dig around that. And so putting four hands in front of her face at all times was crucial. Even when you didn't think the ball was going to be set to her, our goal was to chase her. And I think that worked out for us really well. I think our blockers did a really good job of staying focused, knowing where she was at all times. But then you just kind of have to trust your defense also. If you put up four hands, it doesn't mean she can't hit around. She's 6'8". She's going to hit over the top or around sometimes. And I also think our backcourt did a really good job of digging. And that is just a communication factor like I talked about. Our preparation all week, if our blocker is going to take away this, we have to be responsible for digging the ball. And I think just yesterday, our defense is what we're really proud of. We said at the start of the match, if we out-defend them, we have a chance to win. I don't know exactly what the totals were. I know we had more blocks than they did. I'm not sure about digs, but I think that's something that we were really proud of, and that's kind of how we put ourselves in a position to win, was knowing where she was at all times.
You and Jenna were in the lineup at the same time several times. What's the communication like between you two when you guys are both out there on the floor?
I think that Jenna and I do a really good job just from the aspect that I've said this before, but now we've been playing together for 4 years, kind of in essentially the same spots, even if it's been flip-flopped, to know kind of who's taking what ball. And sometimes you don't even need that communication factor. It's almost just like what the other person's going to do next to you, which is really nice to have, because sometimes that takes away mid-play. Instead of yelling something in the middle of it, you can just know she's going to be there. She knows I'm going to be there. But just working around our block and, if something happens after a play, one of us feels like, we weren't sure what goes on, just kind of taking those few seconds before we get back into service even to say, hey, next time I'll be here, next time you do that. And I think our team does a really good job of communicating, and Jenna and I, just playing together for 4 years, it's not hard to, tell each other what's going on or, ask for this or ask for that. So the communication is definitely there.
You mentioned JL's injury before. You've had a little injury problem yourself. First of all, how are you? And second, how hard has it been to have to sit out some of these matches?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I'm having some hamstring groin problems recently. It's hard to kind of get fully back with that when you're playing all the time, But, it is difficult. It's hard to sit back and watch your team play, especially a game like Michigan State. You feel that win, that loss, whether you're playing or not. And it's, especially being on the court the past 4 years, it's kind of feels like for me it takes my voice away. I think that on the court I'm a pretty vocal leader and emotional leader, and it's hard to do that when you're sitting on the sidelines. You only get those few couple seconds when they come off for a timeout. And so it's been hard to watch, but if anything, it's just made me take my time on the court with even more importance, and not to take that for granted, especially with it being my senior year. But I think that while it was hard and we had a couple losses, maybe not having a lot of our pieces there, it really prepared people. my little sister got a chance to play, which was great. You have to learn how to adjust to new things. And then with JL not being there, it's made Raven really step up. And if you noticed yesterday, which a lot of people did, if you look at her stats, I mean, she wasn't there a week ago against Nebraska, just with where she was blocking. But her being put in that position and making her really learn the game has helped us. And so to have JL there, it's just so huge. I think that it's really hard. You look at a lot of teams and a lot of people came back, but I want to say that ours has at times almost every single person that's been here the past 4 years on the court. And so when you have our group that comes in and we know each other so well and there's that communication, it's kind of hard to replace that.
You know, you mentioned Allie before. This is the time of the year that players that aren't playing a lot sometimes can struggle at this time. How have you talked her through that, going from being such an integral part of her high school team to now playing limited minutes as a freshman here?
I think the transition is difficult, especially, you know, if she looks at my position, you know, my freshman year had the opportunity to play a lot. But if you look at it, when I came in at my time, there was pieces that needed to be filled. You know, we didn't really have a DS that was ahead of me that I kind of had to step in and take on that role. But I try to just tell her that, you know, she's got to take it one day at a time. And with a lot of these kids that aren't getting the chance to play that you don't see on the court all the time, we don't want to overlook this season at all. You know, this season is so important. But for them, I had a talk in the locker room probably about a month ago that was saying, you know, if you don't get the chance to play now, what you're doing in practice will transpire to next year. And for them, you know, in the spring this year, they'll have the opportunity to play some spring matches, which I think that my class was the last to do. I don't think Emma Ellis's class has ever played in a spring match before because it got canceled due to COVID. And so they'll have a chance to put a lineup on the floor in the spring that with kids that haven't seen the floor at all. And so I've kind of just been telling her and a lot of the younger kids that, and even the older ones, you know, there's some juniors that haven't played a lot either, that what they do in practice and, you know, if they do get put in games is going to come in handy next year. And they just kind of have to keep preparing themselves for that. But there's not a whole lot that they need to be told. I mean, the people that you don't see on the floor all the time, they're great teammates. They're always on the bench. Our bench is so energetic. They're so talkative. They're coming up when we come off the floor. They're telling us things that they see. I just think that when you have a group of 21 people, and we talked about this at the beginning of the season, it's so hard to try to get everybody invested. I mean, especially when you're not seeing the floor as much as you would like to. But they've just done such a good job. It's just a lot of selfless people that put the program first and just try to keep that in mind. And so I'm really proud with how Allie's handled it, but I'm really proud with how everybody else has too.
Thank you. Sam?
Just a couple things, and I don't want you to embarrass Emma there, but I'm going to ask you about her while she's sitting next to you. Before the Northwestern match, Dave said he put her in the lineup because he needed to find some energy. Just kind of talk about maybe the energy that she brings and how that sparks a team. Yeah,
I think that when you have somebody new in there that comes, and Emma Ellis, she's got some good celebrations that she brings to the table. Just turning around, and when you have somebody like that just outwardly shows emotion, you know, like sometimes people get excited and you get excited for them, but they don't do a whole lot, and that's not some people's personalities. But sometimes I'm not on the court with her because, you know, we obviously switch when we come in, but the vibe that she brings, you know, when you have somebody that gets excited and it makes the people around you excited, people feed off of that, and then it makes your game better. And so I think that definitely Emma is somebody that brings that to the table. But I think, you know, as far as all three of our outside hitters go, they all do a great job. But I think that Emma really stepped up this week. A lot of people see that, and he talked about this in the locker room, but they all do such a great job of filling their role and coming in when they need to come in. Even yesterday, she got taken out for 3 points, comes back in the fourth set and gets the game-winning kill. I just think that's so awesome, and the vibe that she brings, like he's talking about, is just overall optimistic, and that's what we need. Sometimes it's that fresh face on the court, and so she's done a really great job.
Last thing for me, just can you talk about the evolution of analytics since you've been here, and obviously the things that you're doing now and how that's helped the program kind of understand deeper within the numbers why you're doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so the evolution has been crazy. You have Michael Burrill, who is we call him our analytics guy. He's our grad manager, but he's honestly just so much more. I mean, before the season started, he gave us a packet, and usually, you know, we get scouting sheets. It was usually about, I would say, you know, a page and a half long at the most. Now we're looking at about 6 pages of just breaking down every single thing that happens in every rotation. Yesterday, one of the big things that he did that really helped us was in each rotation, we talked about Sydney Hilly was pushed in the middle of the court. She's more likely to set the middle. If she's pushed more towards the outside, she's more likely to do that. And he has that marked in every single rotation in a booklet that we can look at to know. And so, the analytics game has just been huge, especially, Dave talks about it all the time, but our generation has access to volumetrics and being able to watch film that, people didn't get to do back in the day. Just watching yourself, obviously you grow as a player, but watching other people, the preparation is so important. So it's just changed so much. But Michael's been a big part of that, and having him on our staff has been huge this year.
You guys had the Wisconsin match on Halloween, but you guys got to have some fun, as we saw on the social media page. Who had the best costume on that Saturday practice?
Ooh, the best costume. If we were going individually, because the three of them that dressed up as the thumbs from Spy Kid, that was just really good. And props to them. We didn't know they were doing that. So as a group, I would say that they were the best. Individually, I'm going to have to give that to Emily. She was the Grinch. She went all out in the body paint, practicing that the whole entire practice, I will say. So that was dedication. So I want to give that award to her.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Emma. We're going to switch off, and Emma, you're up.
All right, kind of along the same lines of what I asked Mo, was just that energy. Where do you kind of channel that from? What do you think you bring when you get your opportunities?
Personally, I've worked on just being vocal and being loud, and when my number's called, what can I bring that someone else maybe hasn't been bringing, or that I think is very valuable to just the game in general or sports. And for a long time, energy has been kind of my thing. Since I've been really little, I've been very obnoxious and kind of just outgoing and stuff like that, and I think that has just translated to my playing now.
How do you stay ready when you're not getting consistent playing time, and especially with the three of you out there, any given point, it could be my chance?
Yeah, it's just a lot of preparation, staying very positive within yourself, saying, if my number's called, I have to go in there and shine. I have to go in there and, step up, bring something to the position that we need. And I think a lot of it is being close with our other three outsides. And, a lot of times when you're in this huge competition between people in your position, it can get very tense or have a lot of communication issues. And I think we work well together in the sense of, if one girl is pulled and another's gone in, what have I seen off of the court that can help, or what has she seen while she's been on the court? I think that also plays a big role into just helping each other in the one position, because it's more the team, and yeah, you want to play and you want to do good, but what's the team goal in the end?
I think the Northwestern match, you finished strong in that third set. How much of that carried over with confidence and just kind of being like, what, I can do this, I belong out here?
I think a lot of it did. I think it definitely gave myself a boost, saying, I'm still in it, that the coaches and the players, they have confidence in me, that, I can hold my position, I can hold my role when I'm needed, and I definitely think it helped a lot with confidence.
Last thing for me is just how big was the moment Mo referenced it, you're playing out of system and the ball gets set to you there in the end of the fourth set, and you put that away. And that's a position where when the ball's like that, it usually goes to your go-to players because you can trust them. And for you to get that ball in that situation and put it away, how big of an individual moment was that for you?
It was crazy. We've been working on out of system the whole entire week. Every single day we'd spend an hour at least doing out of system, getting it from different players, getting it from Mo, Madison Skimmerhorn, Jenna, just working with where we were relative to each other on the court. And I just think it couldn't have gone better, because what we worked on in practice kind of, we put it into our gameplay.
Emma, as a high energy player, does it put more pressure on you every day to be up I mean, if you come to practice and you don't have a smile on your face and don't bring energy, everybody's going to notice. Does that put more pressure on you to be up every day on the court?
I guess in a sense, yes. But I think it's just kind of a part of me, really, my personality. So I think it's not really, doesn't feel like, like today I have to, give a lot of energy. But in times of like when we're stressed or frustrated, I know that, sometimes people look to me or I'm looking for others. And I think that also just helps alleviate some of the pressure, knowing that, I can give something so small that I feel like I don't have to give a lot of energy into, but it helps in so many ways.
Lastly, can you talk about the role of the crowd, and not only in yesterday's match, but if you had played that match last spring, it would have had an entirely different feel. Talk about playing in front of a full house on a day like yesterday.
Oh, it's incredible. It's every time we always talk about, Holloway being the great atmosphere, the great place to play. And, some people think, you've been playing there for 3 years. It kind of doesn't get old. And it really doesn't, especially when everyone's clapping and cheering. I still get chills on the court and on the sidelines when I'm hearing everyone and all the chants and cheers. It really does play a big part. They're kind of like our seventh man, if you want to go that way. But and I definitely think they can get inside the other people's heads just how close to the court. But we play in this environment a lot, so I think it helps us. It's very positive in our sense.
When Wisconsin walks into your home court, that's kind of like the boogeyman kind of coming in out of nowhere. But you guys seem to have a really positive weekend, like I mentioned, asked with Mo, the Halloween costume thing, the day before the game. What was the mentality walking into that game?
Yeah, well, we kind of said it in the beginning, they're ranked number 3. We're expected to lose. But, we have nothing to lose. We just need to go out there and play like we've been playing. We've been making a lot of changes since our loss against Michigan State. And I think people have come in with a different mindset in that sense. And we just said, let's go out and play our hardest play and know what we've been preparing for, we've been training for. We can do this. And it was just like a sense of togetherness, and a lot of times we can struggle sometimes when we're down in stressful situations, but I feel like yesterday we just kind of stuck with each other more than we had been previously, and it just felt like there was really no tension, and it's just kind of like, let's go to the next point regardless of what had happened previously.
You guys have been battle tested at home, especially looking back at that Ohio State victory. Do you think that knowing you can beat those really top teams at home kind of led into the Wisconsin game, or totally two different games?
I would say a little bit, yes, but I would say two different games. We always go really hard against Ohio State. I think that's just, been like in the past, and we've always come close to being Wisconsin. And, this year I think we really felt like we had a really big chance, and I think having the match at home first really played into that a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm not sure what I can add after Mo and Emma had their say, but I'll be available for questions. The only thing I would lead with is, I'd mentioned this, I think, last week, that I feel like we've been getting a lot done in practice, and I think it's showing up in some matches. And I give our entire staff and our entire team credit for that. At the start of the season, we talked about how having 21 players was going to be a challenge, and we needed everybody on board to make this work. And there's been a great buy-in from our team, and our staff has done a great job. we made some changes in who sets the second ball if the setter plays the first ball lately, and it's worked out really well. But it's taken some time to develop non-setters that can set the ball, and that's something that Kat Jewell, our assistant head coach, does, and she's done a really nice job with that. And our volunteer coach, Chad Sutton, has become much more assertive. You know, he was here last year, but we just got him in December, and we didn't know whether or not we could believe in him or have confidence in him, and now he's been here long enough that we're giving him some major responsibilities, and he's done a great job. And of course, John kind of takes the lead in the gym with our players when they work individually and so forth. So I really feel like, since that Michigan State match, which again I thought was a match where we weren't awful, we just weren't good enough, our kids have been really, really sharp, and we just now need to continue that as we go on this journey to Maryland and Rutgers this weekend. So that's all I got for right now. Sam?
Dave, you talked about Northwestern putting Emma out there on the outside because she had that energy. Clearly that, in the third set against Northwestern was a lift. How big is that kind of translated into what happened yesterday and, being in a situation where you're out of system and have to get the ball to somebody and she puts away match point?
She was really, really good yesterday against Wisconsin in hitting a variety of shots and normally hitting the right shot every time. Her problem sometimes in the past has been hitting the ball low to the net and just driving the ball into the meat of the block. And she did that maybe one time yesterday. The rest of the time she was tooling the block, wiping off the block, hitting drive shots, really smart shots. But you're right, she brings this enthusiasm to the floor that I think that her teammates really appreciate. And we made that move last week because we felt like that would benefit us. And she's just holding on to that position because she's playing well. She gives us, I think, probably in that group of three players, maybe our most efficient blocker. And she was going to be matched up against Dana Retke, we knew, for at least two of the three rotations that she was up there. And that's kind of why we went that way to begin with, and she didn't let us down. Did a great job blocking, hitting, dropping off, playing defense, and bringing some positive chemistry to the team.
What is the importance of beating a Wisconsin, which you've won big matches before, but that seems to be the team that kind of has been the standard bearer in the Big Ten in recent years, and what they've done in the tournament. This kind of shows like, hey, we are capable of beating anybody that's going to make the NCAA tournament.
Seems like we have several teams that are like that in our league, to be honest with you. You could certainly add Penn State, Nebraska, Minnesota into that mix. They all seem to be knocking on the door of the Final Four every season. But Wisconsin, I think because of our familiarity with who they are, their coaching staff, that we were handling them pretty well until their staff changed. And then they did some great recruiting and have had great teams, and we've had a tough time beating them. So the win was significant for us, that keeping our head above water a little bit in the league and beating a team that is, I think, as good as anybody in the country. I mean, I honestly believe that they are as good as any team in the country. Probably they, Texas, Louisville are the three right now that most people would suggest have a chance to win the national championship, or the best chance to win the national championship. So to beat them and at times just play with such great execution throughout the match and have players step up, and it was a really big win for our program, no doubt.
Last thing, just kind of your coaching tree. You mentioned the Wisconsin staff. Val Nichols going to the state finals as an assistant coach. There's former Purdue players sprinkled all over the country. How special is that when you see these players come in and have a tremendous love for volleyball and kind of teaching it to the next generation of players, and you see that kind of trickle down over the years?
Well, I can remember when I was hired here by Morgan Burke in 2003, February 16th, I think it was. I remember saying then that I hoped that I could do what my dad did at Ball State, and that was bring players into your program, and when they leave, that they still love the game and they still want to be involved in the game. And as you know, Sam, Ball State has developed more coaches than any university in the country in the sport of volleyball. So I think it's great that we have a lot of players that when they finish their careers here, they've continued to play, continue to coach, whether it be, doesn't matter whether it's Division I or JV high school. It really doesn't matter as long as they're giving, as they want to continue to give back to young people. And I think, to me, that's really important. So it does mean a lot. I saw Kelly Miller just got her 100th victory at Ball State University in a short amount of time. And Brittany Dildon, Brittany could be coaching, head coach at a lot of places. I'm talking Power 5 conferences, if she would like. But she's really happy in her role there with Kelly Sheffield at Wisconsin. They've had great success, and I don't blame her for hanging around and taking advantage of what she's helped build there. Yeah. Hi, JD.
Hey, I think last week it was Tim that asked you about confidence. Losses in a row can take a toll on your team. How does 2 big wins like this, a sweep and then a big win over a top 5 opponent, how does that help confidence late in this season?
Well, I think it's overvalued a little bit. I think I mentioned that to Tim. Coaches probably let it bother them or affect them more than what might for the players. But I didn't think our players were too worked up over it when we talked last, when we had lost to Michigan State and then lost at Nebraska. I felt like, from what I saw in practice, that we were going to be fine. And now just because you win 2, you better not think that that's more than it really is, because Maryland is a team that also beat Wisconsin this season, and that's who we play next. And they play in a gym about half the size as ours, and it's not an easy place to go play, and they're going to be waiting on us. So it'll be really important for our team to get right back at it this week in practice and be as focused as we were the last week, so we can continue this movement. And just the bits and pieces I heard from our girls when they were in here talking makes me feel like they're pretty focused right now, and I think we'll be ready to go this weekend. Thanks.
Dave, is yesterday the best you've blocked this season?
Well, I think for some individuals it was. In the last 3 matches we've played, that would be at Nebraska a week ago Saturday, and then Northwestern Wednesday, and then yesterday against Wisconsin, we've outblocked our opponents 43-20, and we're not playing chopped liver. I mean, you're talking about 2 teams that are ranked in the top 10, and Northwestern. So I think we're blocking pretty well right now. Raven Colvin has made a significant difference. She set the tone in our match yesterday. I don't care what anybody else might think. You're playing up against Dana Retke, who I believe is the most significant player that this country's seen in the last 5 years. 6'8", hitting .500, which is unbelievable, by the way. Just an imposing character, and Raven didn't flinch. I mean, I think she had 3 blocks in about the first 8 points of the match, and I think that set the tone. And a couple kills to go along with it. And to have a freshman come in and play like a 5th-year senior, which is how she plays, is a real positive thing for our team. But we are blocking well. It's a strength that I think we've had a good blocking team the last several years, but I think Raven has helped take that to a new level. And then just the maturity. When you have players that have done it, I've always said blocking's the last skill that players will develop. And usually they develop as a senior and then they're gone. Well, now they developed it maybe as a senior, and now some of them are still here. So we're hoping that will continue. But teams will figure out some things they can do against your block as they scout. You have to just continue to get better and better in that skill.
You knew that Raven was going to have a big impact. Has she had a bigger impact at this point in the season than you expected?
Yes. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I knew she was a special person with just incredible intangibles, competitiveness, confidence, work ethic, all those things. I knew that she was really special. I didn't know she was this special. I think her athleticism's better than I thought. she's undersized to play in the middle. I mean, that's kind of the point I'm making about going up against, Dana Recchi, who I believe is a phenomenal player. And she's 6'1/2". That's not very big compared to Recchi or the other girl that was in there as well, Smrek, the freshman. Didn't bother our kid at all. I mean, I think, Raven just thrived on that opportunity. So, but yeah, I think she has impacted things a lot more. I didn't know that she would be in the lineup at this point in time if we had JL back, and then you've got Taylor Trammell, who was blocking 1.4 balls a set, which is like third or fourth in the league, and yet you've got a freshman that has found a way to get on the floor. So, yeah, I think she's been better than what we thought.
Last thing for me, you had a couple of times yesterday, it looks like the kids convinced you to challenge, and the challenge didn't work. Do you start the lie detector process now in practice to tell you who's going to tell you the truth out there?
Well, I don't think they were wrong. I think what they have to understand, that was my fault. That's on me for. Here's what happens. Okay, I think we used one challenge already, and that didn't go our way. So then you've only got one left until you get to the fifth. If you lose it, if you're wrong, and Newton, who's kind of go-to player on your team, goes up and hits a shot, and she knows there's a touch. And the hitters know. Hitters and the blockers, I mean, they're right there. They got a really good feel. They hear it. They sense it. They know. And I think there probably was. But the issue is those cameras aren't good enough to pick it up. And I know that. And I've told the players that. But they get caught up in the emotion, and it was a critical point in game, I think it was game 2, maybe 3, but it was a critical point. And at first I'm thinking, I'm not going to do it because I've got to save it. But then you realize that it might help those players if you show that your belief in them, if that makes any sense to you. So I folded and put the green card up. And of course, you just can't see on those cameras well enough, and I know that. And we didn't have access to the TV cameras that they were using on ESPNU for some reason. They couldn't get those hooked up to the monitor. So we don't have that. And then there were about 15 I wanted to challenge the rest of the time, and I couldn't do it because we didn't have one in our pocket. So that's the conversation I'll have with our team again today. That, yeah, tell me what they think, but don't get emotional with me because I'm a sensitive guy, okay? And I might just go the wrong direction on that. So, yeah, good question.
Yeah, Dave, that's not true. We know that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for your time today, Dave.
Sure.
In that first set, you guys jumped out to, I believe, a 10-point lead at one point, and then Wisconsin kind of battled back. What was it that let you guys clinch that first set despite them kind of bringing it back?
Well, the lead was a pretty big lead, and I got a little worried when they outscored us 10-2 to kind of get back in it. I felt good because I thought we were in had good rotations coming up when they closed the gap. We just had made a few errors and didn't pass the ball quite as well as what we had. But I still felt pretty good about that. Although I've seen teams this year come back from deficits like that. But I was glad we did. Close the door at 25-20. I didn't want it to get much closer than that. But you're playing against a good team, and I think we rocked them early, and then they settled in a little bit. And for the rest of the night, it was just a dogfight. It was just a brawl the rest of the night. Both teams playing at a really high level.
And the last one for me, most teams, when they know a team like Wisconsin, Ohio State coming in, are just straight-faced, stoic the whole time. But you guys were able to have some fun. You did the costume thing the day before Halloween. What is it about this team that lets you guys have fun in such serious and important moments?
Well, I think it's important not to take it too seriously. If you take it too seriously, you're going to be uptight. And being uptight's not a part of the formula for success. So I didn't plan the costume thing. I wasn't even involved in that. But I was glad they did it. It's just an indication of how relaxed that they are. But most important, Alex, was that their focus and their preparation for the match. We knew going in we were going to play well. There wasn't any doubt. We were going to play well. Was that going to correlate into a victory? You don't know because a lot of that's dependent on the other team. But we knew we were going to play well because we've been too good in practice. Caitlin Newton has been playing great volleyball. Grace Cleveland has gone up another level, okay, in the last 2 weeks. J.L. Johnson and Mo Hornung back in the lineup and getting healthy made a huge difference in our team. Raven Colvin has become a woman, okay, on the volleyball floor in front of our eyes. And then, obviously, with Ellis coming in and playing the way that she's played and everybody else. And, of course, in that match on Sunday, Haley Bush set a beautiful match, just an absolutely beautiful match. And I get critical of OTEC because she's a libero and she's been in there for 5 years. And I felt like she played an average match for her. And then I went back and watched the video of the match, and she made a lot of plays. She made a lot of plays. So I think collectively we were really prepared to play, and the maturity of our team showed, and they did a great job.
I actually do have one. Who do you think had the best costume on that practice?
I didn't even I got in to see it at the very end, but I wouldn't want to pick who had the best costume. I'm happy for all of them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Coach.